Next on the 5 o'clock report.
When they say it sounds like a freight train, they ain't lying.
16 ayes and 21 noes.
Well, the noes have it.
Our number one priority is a ceasefire.
He was competent enough to know what that meant.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Threatening skies. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. That's especially true in Pennsylvania right now, where a severe thunderstorm watch is in effect for roughly half the state, mostly south, central, and western counties. The severe weather threat, though, stretches all the way back to the Midwest, hit by numerous tornadoes yesterday and again today.
When they say it sounds like a freight train, they ain't lying. It's like it was loud. I could feel the house heave.
However, this woman tells CBS the bad weather brought out the best in people, too.
It was just amazing just how people just came out and just started cutting trees, for people they don't even know.
We'll get the latest forecast for our area from meteorologist Kevin Williams during this newscast. One big, beautiful bill hits a roadblock.
The clerk shall report.
On the vote, there were 16 ayes and 21 noes.
Well, the noes have it.
President Trump dealt a setback with the GOP-led vote to scuttle his so-called big, beautiful bill. The vote in the House Budget Committee, 21-16 against, 5 Republicans joining with Democrats in voting against that multi-trillion-dollar package. Most of the GOP concerns center around increasing the deficit. Lloyd Smucker of Pennsylvania was among those 5 Republican no votes. The next vote will probably be late Sunday night. Talking Turkey face-to-face. No Vladimir Putin, but negotiators from Russia and Ukraine met in Turkey today, seeking a peaceful end to Russia's 3-year-long invasion of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Our number one priority is a full, unconditional, and honest ceasefire. This must happen immediately to stop the killing and create a solid basis for diplomacy.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the bottom line, though, is no Putin, no Trump, no deal.
Given everything we know after months of working on this, nothing's going to happen until President Trump sits across the table from Vladimir Putin and puts it on the line and puts it on the table. I think that's the only chance we have at peace at this point.
Negotiations today did yield a new large-scale prisoner swap. Heading back from the Middle East, Trump also pressing Iran on signing a deal to backpedal on its race to acquire nuclear weapons.
His administration has handed Iran a proposal for a new nuclear deal. And he also went on to say that Iran knows they have to move quickly or something bad is going to happen.
That's CBS's Natalie Brad. Was Comey just kidding? Former FBI Director James Comey facing a lot of backlash for a social media post which some say called for the assassination of President Trump. The post is a photo of seashells on a beach arranged to form the numbers 8647, which is a known euphemism for assassinating Trump. Comey says he just took a photo of the seashells by the seashore, not knowing of the nefarious meaning. Trump, though, isn't buying it, telling Fox News.
It says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says Comey was calling for the assassination of Trump, and federal investigators are looking into that post. First, it was New Jersey's Newark International Airport snarling traffic with technical glitches. Now it's the New Jersey transit system, hit with a strike by the folks who run the trains that many use to get in and out of the Big Apple. This union official says they tried to avoid a strike.
The national mediator that was there asked them to try to give us a counter. We still had a couple hours left before strike deadline, but they decided to leave the room.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy.
Our single highest priority, in addition to making the system work, just as it has been for the past several months, is reaching a fair and affordable deal as soon as humanly possible.
That strike has shut down trains that are used daily by hundreds of thousands of commuters. A lot of interesting health news today. First up, do you use an app to monitor your blood pressure? There's some questions about just how trustworthy those numbers are.
The most reliable way to measure your blood pressure is with the traditional cuff. Instead of smartwatches, phone apps, and other devices, Dr. Eugene Yang.
They haven't really been tested appropriately.
He says doctors need to agree on how to test the new technology, which relies on artificial intelligence, and that AI needs much more data to help it learn how to properly interpret signals from the body.
That's CBS's Heather Bosch. And finally to Pennsylvania for a modern medical marvel.
Soon after KJ Muldoon was born last summer, he was diagnosed with a rare genetic condition that that is fatal for about half the infants affected. Doctors at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia told KJ's family they could try something that had never been done before. Use a technology called CRISPR to find the one uniquely mutated gene out of 20,000 in his little body and fix it.
This is mind-blowing, and we should all be very, very excited.
Brian Brown is an immunologist and bioengineer who heads up gene research at Mount Sinai Medical Center.
We are at day one of the future of how we're going to treat different diseases.
Baby KJ is gaining weight and thriving.
That's CBS's Dr. John LaPook. It's still to come on the 5 o'clock report, sentencing in an area case that drew international attention. What's up now for Penn State? And we'll plug into this week's Capital Connection.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast for tonight. Skies will be variable. Starlight, some clouds, an isolated shower or a thunderstorm with low temperatures about 60. Could be some patchy fog. On Saturday, mainly cloudy with showers, couple thunderstorms, breezy. High temps 70s, but those temperatures drop into the 50s in the afternoon in western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania. Much cooler region-wide Saturday night and Sunday. Sunday, clouds, a few sunny peaks, a passing shower, and breezy with high temperatures upper 50s to the middle 60s.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. The New Jersey man convicted in the stabbing of well-known author Salman Rushdie will spend the next 25 years in prison. Hadi Bittar stabbed Rushdie numerous times as he was about to speak at an event at the Chautauqua Institution in 2022. In February, he was found guilty of attempted murder and assault. Chautauqua County DA Jason Schmidt.
This August will be 3 years since this occurred, and quite frankly, the county and law enforcement and even the public defender's office, it's enormously taxing.
Defense attorney Nathaniel Barone.
Unfortunately, people make bad decisions, and it's something that certainly they regret or they're remorseful about, but they may have a difficult time expressing that for whatever reasons.
Bittar still faces federal charges in that attack. Months, that's how long it will likely take for a final report on what might have caused a Western New York home explosion this week that killed one occupant and critically injured the other. Town of Hamburg, New York police say fire investigators have not found any evidence to suggest the incident in the Buffalo suburb was intentional or criminal, but nor have they found what did cause the powerful blast that killed an elderly woman and left her husband in critical condition at Erie County Medical Center. Police described the investigation into the cause as very complex. A labor protest in Rochester. Graduation ceremonies at the University of Rochester not going exactly as planned as graduate student workers rallied at the stadium where the ceremonies were being held this morning. Those grad students, union reps, and supporters on campus holding up signs voicing support for UR's grad workers. The students say the U of R has been blocking the graduate student workers' efforts to unionize. Postponed. Possible closure of several Penn State satellite campuses has been put on hold, at least for now. The university's Board of Trustees has postponed a decision on the potential closures at least until they reconvene next week. Trustees met for over 2 hours behind closed doors Thursday morning before deciding to schedule another meeting for next Thursday. Trustee Barry Fenchak tells WJAC there's an important lesson to be learned by Penn State's leaders here.
The importance of having a plan B, a contingency plan. Because sometimes the plan A's don't work. So what's your contingency plan? And that's what I feel here. What are they going to do if they close Du Bois campus? Now what?
Fenchak says university leaders need to tread carefully because the possible closures aren't a decision that can be easily undone. Penn State's president issued a preliminary report this week recommending the closure of 7 campuses. Well, a lot of campuses around the listening area are holding graduation ceremonies this weekend. Jeff Boron with SendYourKidsToCollege.org with some advice for the class of 2025.
The big thing is get on top of your student loans, put together a financial plan for yourself at this age, and someday you'll thank me for that.
Boron says paying down student debt is a huge challenge for college grads.
I think the first thing to look at is a budget. Putting together, here's where my income is coming from, and then create a winning budget where you're actually saving a little bit of money as well as probably paying down some student loan debt.
The average college student today borrows over $30,000 in pursuit of that bachelor's degree. Up next, highlights from this week's edition of Capital Connection as Bob Price and Company tackles some of the top topics in Albany and Harrisburg. Among today's issues dissected by Michael Gear with the Pennsylvania Family Institute and Jason McGuire with New York Families, criminal justice reform in New York, and legalizing recreational marijuana use in PA.
When it comes to corrections, what needs correcting in the state of New York?
Well, there are a number of issues in our prison system here in the state of New York that need addressing. One of those is simply to deal with the stress on corrections officers. I think that has led to some of the difficulties that are occurring in the prison system. Also, I think, frankly, they need to deal with some of the law enforcement actions here. Prisoners that really have no accountability once they're in prison. And if you cannot discipline prisoners in prison, that makes it extremely challenging and dangerous for other inmates.
Yeah. Well, the recreational marijuana bill that passed the House in Pennsylvania, Michael, is dead on arrival in the Senate. Dan Laughlin said this is not good legislation, even though he supports the commercialization of marijuana. Is there any end around that the governor may try to employ, even without Senate approval, to get this across the finish line here?
Well, we're watching very closely because Governor Shapiro certainly wants this as part of his long-term plan, as part of his budget plan for this session. And we don't right now see a path that it can get through the Senate, but the governor is going to push very hard, and the marijuana lobbyists are swarming like flies all over the Senate and the House.
Jason, thanks to the support of 3 Democrats, the New York State Education Committee has approved a bill that protects girls' sports from the transgender ideology that is just running rampant in our society today. If you would tell us a little bit more about this bill that passed out of committee and what chance it might have in the full Senate.
Yeah, this is a bill that was sponsored by Senator Steve Rhodes. It really goes to the heart of protecting girls' sports. Why that's so significant here is because we have 2/3 Democratic majorities in our legislature, and that follows through in our committees as well. There are 2/3 Democratic majorities. It is unlikely it will advance any further in the legislature, but it does show us that inroads are being made, even in the Democratic Party, on the issue of protecting girls' sports.
Michael, Planned Parenthood in Pennsylvania is using money that was meant for COVID relief on something entirely unrelated to COVID relief. Planned Parenthood got over $500,000 in pandemic assistance to run LGBTQ-themed youth programs in Bucks County. What's going on here?
Yeah, this comes on the heels of a study done on Planned Parenthood showing that now their growth industry is providing cross-sex hormones for youth without any real medical oversight at all. This particular issue was $600,000 granted from the Pennsylvania Department of Education to the so-called Rainbow Room, funded by Planned Parenthood in Bucks County, and it's basically an LGBTQ grooming facility. And the notion that they took funding designed to deal with the COVID public health emergency to instead be used for these purposes, just another reason why we need to defund Planned Parenthood across the board at the federal and the state level.
Thank you, gentlemen. Highlights from today's Capital Connection, which airs Fridays during the Family Life Noon Report. You can subscribe, listen to, and share this feature along with all of our original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Why do bad things happen even when we're trying to do the right thing? Proverbs 24:16 says, "Though the one who seeks good falls 7 times, they rise again." Hi, I'm Rob West with your Faith and Finance Minute. Have you ever felt like you're doing your best, and yet life just keeps knocking you down? Well, this verse reminds us that falling doesn't mean failure. Life brings setbacks, but those who keep going, who keep trusting in God, rise again. They get back up. Spending plans are like that. Just when you have enough money saved for a small emergency, a big emergency strikes. Medical bills come out of nowhere, cars break down, and prices keep going up. God sees you, He knows your needs, and He promises to provide when you seek Him first and keep pressing on, no matter how many times you fall. Get biblical answers to your financial questions in the Faith Fi community. Download Faith Fi, Faith and Finance in your app store or visit faithfi.com.
Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, it's in a lot of technology, including concerts and your grocery store scanner. Just don't stare at it.
Please be careful. You don't want to be in the way when my laser goes off.
Hey, a laser! I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The weekend is upon us, and the weather news is still mixed at best. Saturday will be a relatively warm day to start, but there'll be some showers and thunderstorms. Sunday will be a drier day, but it's going to be much cooler. All this the result of a potent disturbance that'll cross the area. Here is the call for tonight. Skies will be variable. We'll have times of starlight, some clouds, an isolated shower or a thunderstorm with low temperatures about 60. Could be some patchy fog. On Saturday, mainly cloudy with showers, couple thunderstorms, breezy, high temps 70s, but those temperatures drop into the 50s in the afternoon in western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania. Much cooler region-wide Saturday night and Sunday. Sunday, clouds, a few sunny peaks, a passing shower, and breezy with high temperatures upper 50s to the middle 60s.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Finally at 5, happy anniversary to light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation.
You are looking at an industrial laser which emits an extraordinary light not to be found in nature.
Well, Bondville and Goldfinger and every other laser user can thank Theodore Maiman, who on this day in 1960 in a Malibu lab fired white light through a ruby and with it the world's first laser, a concept predicted decades earlier by Einstein. A Columbia grad student came up with the more familiar acronym. Modern lasers are everywhere, from medical science and electronics to data transmission and special effects. Oh, and of course, those grocery store scanners that read all of our barcodes. By the way, contrary to Hollywood, a laser beam itself is silent. That's the world we live in for Friday, May 16th, 2025. Thank you again for joining us. Hope you have a blessed weekend. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.